Hello and welcome to the Old School RuneScape live Q&A. I'm your host, Mod Aiza, and joined by the wonderful return of Mod Ash. We have Mod Husky, Mod Kieran, and Mod Sween.
Hello.
It seems like chat's happy to see you back, Ash. It's good to see you on the streams as well. I know it's been a little bit of a while. There are a few announcements that I just want to go through. First off, I haven't hosted a Q&A in forever. I think I only hosted like one back when I worked here, so apologies if this is a little bit scuffed. I'll do my best. But in terms of announcements, ! Leagues in the chat. Leagues is live. You know, if you've been living under a rock or something, you might not realize that, but Trailblazer has been up for about 2 weeks now, so ! Leagues to learn more and get stuck in. In addition to that, we've got ! GGA, and that's at the Golden Gnome Awards, will be taking place on the 20th of November at 7 PM GMT, so ! GGA for all information regarding that. And then finally, ! CA, and that is in relation to combat achievements. So in September's Gielinor Gazette, we did touch on the polling and blogging of combat achievements. The design for that is progressing well, and we will hopefully have more information to share with you very soon. But we were very interested to know that when you first heard of combat achievements, what were the hardest tasks that you might have been thinking of at the time? If you do ! CA in the chat, there'll be 2 links, one to a tweet and one to a Reddit thread that you can list your feedback in. And as always, if you have anything that you want us to answer, either myself or the team, then please at OldSchoolRS with your questions. Now that that's out of the way, I guess we can do a little bit of a normal introduction now. So, how is everyone? How are you all feeling today?
It's good to be back.
You're asking
Do you want me to ask individually so there's no silence?
Actually,
it's good to be back. Okay, cool.
At the same time.
Yeah, that's probably a good show. All right. How about you, Husky? How are you today?
I'm good. Just fixed a pretty funny bug with Leagues with the help of Ash that was completely unexpected. So, yeah, it was a good day to catch weird bugs like that.
There's been quite a few little changes and stuff that have came out with Leagues, haven't there, in terms of fixes. I've been keeping an eye on the stuff that comes through, and I've found it quite fascinating actually, just to see all the different interactions that have changed because of what we've done, basically.
Yeah, and there's so many silent ones as well. Like most of it's quest instances that are nothing happens to the player, but we get alerted that it wasn't covered in any area, and we need to try and fix it, which is what this was. Player has nothing to do, but we want a really robust system we can use later on. So we're like, where is this, and why is it working this way? Why is it not included? It's just a lot of fun to try and puzzle all these things out. That's been half my work for the last 2 weeks.
Well, at least you've been having fun with it, so that's good. How about you, Kieran? How are you today?
I'm great. I've just been loving playing Leagues in my spare time.
Same.
Been putting the hours in, smashing out the points. I've unlocked my last area now, so that's good. I got Asgarnia as my last area. I'm 1,000 points off the last relic now, which I'm hoping for because I want the 16x XP before I go and use my 250 wyvern bones. So exciting times.
Heck yeah. It sounds like we're very similar. I think I'm just under 20 tasks now. I've got 18 left in my last area, but I've still got quite a lot of points to my last relic, 4K. I know as soon as I unlock that last area, they're just going to fly through. I've got Mauritania coming up.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. How about yourself, Sween? How are you feeling today?
I'm very well, very tired. It's been a lot of early mornings and late nights. There's a lot of cool stuff happening here at Jagex. And I'm also annoyed because I'm in the UK, and in the UK, the PlayStation 5 doesn't release until the 19th of November. But this stuff arrived today, and I can't even play it. So I'm just sat here looking at it, holding controller, pretending to play. And it's
sad Sween pretending to play his PlayStation, keep sending us photos, and well, at least it's not that long to wait. It's only a week, so you just have something to look forward to, early Christmas. I guess, lastly, how are you at home feeling, chat? Can I get a smiley face if you're feeling good today? And you're only allowed to post smiley faces. No one's allowed to feel bad today, at least not till the Q&A is over. Cool. I would ask what everyone got up to the past week, but I think Husky, Kieran, myself, playing kind of Leagues. Maybe I'm wrong. But that's pretty much what I've been doing. Kieran, it sounds that way. Anything different, Husky?
No, you're completely right. Arcane has stayed a consistent 1 to 2k points ahead of me since the league started, and I'm just trying to catch up with that guy. He's a beast. Got the Infernal Cape actually before work this morning, so that was good fun. After failing miserably last night. But,
yeah, I thought I was doing quite well, because I had a few days off before joining, and I played pretty solidly for those 3 days at least. And I came in, I was like, cool, I'm going to see where I'm at the high scores. And like, no, because Arcane apparently is just an absolute beast and is 20 times above where I'm at. So, how about yourself, Ash? Did you get up to anything interesting last week?
Oh, helped investigate a few obscure bugs. Today's was definitely one of the more obscure ones. It was the player appeared to have been in an instanced area copied from a null coordinate, and that led to much investigation of what the heck is an instanced area of a null coordinate. And after much trawling, we identified that it's from a slice of ham, the bit where ham snipers attack the village, and for a brief moment in a cutscene, the player is transported up into the sky to get a better view of them. The player doesn't see this as happen, they just see the cameras pointing at the ham snipers. But the game's doing it by teleporting the player up into the sky above the goblin hut. And there was no terrain map there, so it counts as null space. And that's why it wasn't recognised as part of Asgarnia, because null space is not a true place. We worked out that Husky could solve it by painting down some actual invisible terrain hovering in the sky above the Goblin Village. That will count as Asgarnia. And having done it, he tells me that the next thing that happened was that the ham snipers shot him. Because he could see them and they could see him. And now he's not in null space, he can be killed. So he had to solve this by building a nice invisible wall around his invisible blocking. It's all go round here.
It's okay, chat. We made the goblins pay for it, so it's all good.
Brilliant. So aside from these very interesting bugs that have been fixed on Ash, obviously it's been quite a while since you've been on the stream. Is there anything that you've been working on that maybe we could update chat on that's been interesting, or are we keeping things secret?
Well, I set out to get my computer to, be a bit better set up so I could do live streams again. Can't say I was in a big rush about it because I was rather enjoying letting all the new people have the attention for a change. I did a lot of live streams between 2013 and about 2019, so I figured I was due a break, but it's good to be back. And in the meantime, you've actually seen some of my work. We put in a Gazette the rank interfaces for clans, where you'd be able to, rather than making you use the titles we'd set, we'd got a much bigger list of titles, like 50 or so in mind, and clan owners will be able to choose which titles appear in their clan. Like, you can stick to the usual private, corporal, sergeant, etc., but if you want to go with something more medieval sounding, squires and peons and knights, those are in the list. And if you want to do it based on RuneScape metals like your bronze, iron, etc., then those are in there. Kitten's in there. That way you can set your hierarchy how you want it with all these titles in whatever order you like. And we think that'll be nice and flexible for you while still working like a clan ranking system that you're used to. Anyway, we put pictures of that out a while back. That was one of mine. Hope you like it. We can take the kitten out again if it's a problem. Or a puppy. I have a feeling that's not going to be a problem with the majority of old school community, Ash. They seem to have an obsession with cats and ears, and why can't it be elf ears? Come on team. Help me out here, all right?
I want to call them clan members my cool cats and kittens, so...
It's a role-playing game, yeah?
Sure, I mean, hey, sky's the limit, right? All right, let's get into some... Oh, go on.
Someone asked if there's a daddy rank, which just
I saw that and
your request.
I was going to ignore that one, Husky, but you said it, so it's fine.
Well, it's because of your quest, that made me think it was funny.
If we, besides that, I've had some other projects going on. For example, as you'll be aware, next year is the 20th anniversary of RuneScape launching. That's a pretty big deal for an online game to have a 20th birthday at all. we feel it warrants a little in-game event, and they're very kindly letting me spend a little time on that one. It's small. We know that there's things that players want more than they needed one of those, but we would like to mark it. And I think what I've got in mind will, well, you might cringe a bit, but I think you'll remember it.
It does seem really fun. I had a look through the documents yesterday when I was catching up on other projects. Very, very, it's very much you, Ash, I think is the best way to describe it. People will know it's definitely a quest you made.
You should have seen the uncensored version.
I hope you've got a copy, and if you do, please share it with me. Okay, let's get some of the questions. Sween, I'd ask you what you've been up to, but we know you've just been talking about PlayStation and working way too late.
I want to answer.
Go on.
So we've been really busy looking at 2021, planning and resourcing headcount and stuff. So that's taken up a lot of time, but it's not all bad news because as of today, there is a roll up for an old school community manager. If you'd like to come and work on old school RuneScape in the community team to work with me and Aiza, there is a link in the chat. That's what I wanted to do. I was hoping you'd ask me the question just so I could do that plug. And we could find great talent.
There we go. Sorry, I actually forgot, and I probably should have poked that one. So I told you, like, I'm rusty. Okay, it's been a while. I'll get it. I'll get there eventually. Okay, let's get some questions then before chat riot completely. One of these is, I think it's a question that gets asked a fair bit, but are there any updates at the moment on the plans to increase blood rune supply? I know in the past players have suggested making them purchasable as packs from stores. But yeah, do we have any update on that at all?
So in the next Gielinor Gazette, which should be published soon, I'll give spoilers that there is one of the articles in that Gazette will be talking about some of the ideas, the best ideas that have been coming out of our ideation sessions recently. One of those is particularly applicable, and it's something that we want to get your opinions on, basically. So I'll leave it at that, but there'll be more said on that pretty darn soon.
Cool. There's a good follow-on question actually a little bit further down here. I may as well ask it now. When is the next Gazette going to be published?
Soon is the answer. There's some pretty cool stuff contained within, which needs, how to word it, some like stakeholder approval, just to make sure the messaging is nice and accurate and as good as it can be. But soon.
Okay, soon. There you go, guys. Soon. Can we get more information on the Schooled effect at Revs? While Schooled, I've been getting 4 to 6 UC drops, which I assume is a rare table. That was from someone, not me, personally.
So, we've actually sent a fairly detailed breakdown of how the Rev drop table is calculated to the players who run the wiki, and they very kindly put the information in the wiki. So, I think you'll be able to find most of the details there. I had a look before the stream, and yeah, they got it, including the UCs. There's a lot of numbers involved. I spent an entire afternoon a couple of years ago writing out how the calculations were done, made an infographic out of it, tweeted the thing, and players found it quite informative because it was the first time we'd ever actually confirmed that sculling helped in the first place. Obviously that's out of date, but Mod OSRS kindly made an updated version of it, and that's what's being shared with the wiki people, and I'm pretty sure he's tweeted it too, so you'll probably be able to find it. He's at JagXOasis. In the meantime, yeah, being sculled does help a little. Means that you're, well, less likely to get UCs, I think, than if you were unsculled. But they're on there.
Okay, next one is regarding poll 73. When can players expect the rest of the content from that poll to be coming out? I know there was a batch out that came out with this week's update with regards to Nightmare of Ashihama and Chambers of Xeric. Yeah, any updates on the rest?
Yeah, how are people liking the Chambers of Xeric changes? That people finding they can be able to get a layout that they're not happier with a lot quicker than going in and out, I hope. But yeah, the remaining Poll 73 stuff is really over the next coming weeks. It's taking a while to get to the point of getting them out, but yeah.
Cool.
Not much more to be said than that, I think.
That's fair. I don't think you're going to get much in the terms of feedback regarding Chambers at the moment, because everyone's playing leagues. I'm sure there are some people out there that are still doing Chambers in main game, but For the majority, it seems like it's all leagues. Okay, so when will Soul Wars and the other polled minigame stuff be released?
So, Soul Wars, we'll use this as a nice little segue. Mod Spear, could you throw up some really cool artwork to show the players watching the stream? Here's a little reveal.
Oh,
That looks pretty cool, right? I think, honestly, that's one of my favorite pieces of art we've made for Old School RuneScape. So, huge shout out to the product marketing team, Mod Candosi for leading the vision for this, Mod Ed being involved in feedback, and then our creative services team for this being awesome. Like, that captures, I love it. But you know the clans artwork from the RuneFest reveals? I think that's probably still just about my favorite, but this is sweet.
yeah.
It looks so exciting.
I love that. That might be the desktop background choice for me in the future.
It's nice to see more left-handed representation in the game as well.
I never noticed that.
Didn't even realise. Asher with a keen eye. Yeah. Okay. So sorry, Sween. I was going to say, did I blank out and you answered it, or did you just not?
No, I was hoping to just hide behind artwork and move on without answering it. No, we're aiming to release in early January. That could move. It's not a dead set release date announcement. We'll aim for stuff. We've got much better with release dates. It's been a long old time since winter 2017 and so on. And for the other polled minigame stuff, I spoke to Mod Rock earlier. So around the end of this year and early next year, it will come out in batches. Some stuff might come a bit later, like the bigger pieces of work. So just as a reminder for the things we polled, you've got quite a comprehensive Shades of Morton revamp with new rewards and new keys, and then other small quality of life changes for various other mini games like Castle Wars, and you could be able to play Rune Link everywhere. Well, not everywhere, at the GE.
That would be cool. I don't know what happened there, but we're back. We've changed from the image. Okay. I just heard a sound, but I'm covering my screen, so sorry. Again, inexperience, it scared me a little bit. Next question is, when will we be talking about the fishing skill boss again? I guess I can take this and just give a very generic answer of soon. I've actually started work now on 2 projects, one of them being combat achievements, as well as fishing skill boss, and that's in terms of obviously bringing information to you, the players. So !CA in the chat, we do want to get some feedback regarding tasks for combat achievements, but essentially we are aiming to have both of those projects being blogged and polled before the end of this year.
This is such a soon TM stream so far, isn't it?
It is. Hey, I committed to before the end of the year, and there's only a month left, really. So it is relatively
a bit more. We can still be vague, a bit less precise. Early, shall we?
Oh, do you want? I mean, I can. Do I want to say the actual dates? We do have dates planned for them. But it will be.
I was going to say early December. We're looking for blogging fishing tools again. That's vague enough.
Yeah, that'll do. Thanks. Cool. So moving on from that, pretty interesting one. This actually. How would you compare the success of this league to Deadman?
They're not necessarily comparable updates. They appeal to different types of players. I think it's very clear that the leagues appeals to more players. It's PVM, it's some skilling, and if you choose the wilderness, there are some aspects of PvP too, but you kind of create that gameplay for yourself. And because of that, it's managed to retain a lot more, I guess, what we say concurrent users. If we look at the number of players online every night, this is all information you can get yourself by looking at the World Select menu. There are more players playing the leagues 2 weeks after release than there are with Deadman 2 weeks after release. But that's probably also a reflection of the fact that we put a lot more dev time and support and marketing support behind this league than we did with Deadman. So for those reasons, it's probably not that comparable. But maybe if you cast your mind way back to the first or the second or third Deadman event, when things were a bit more unknown and it was still new, and there's more to be figured out, that did have better I don't want to say like too marketing sounding, but better player retention. So I think, you know, we are looking at a Deadman next year with some more considerable support behind it. We'd probably look to compare the success of this league to that Deadman rather than this league to a recent Deadman.
I think it's just down to design as well, right? Sorry, you can go here first, Kieran.
I was just going to add to saying, like, if you go back to the original Deadman and the original leagues, right, Trusted League last year, so the actual original ones were actually fairly darn similar in terms of how many players jumped on initially, compared to the size of the game at the time, right? Like, 2015 was when we did Deadman originally, right? That's a long time ago now. It's so we're in a very different era now for old school, but yeah, they were pretty darn similar, and mostly Deadman since, you know, every consequential Deadman, every subsequent, was reasonably like less and less over time. And I think that really does lean into what Sween was saying about you need to spice it up, you know. And make it different each time so that it isn't so predictable. You know exactly what it is. And also, we definitely, I think, did Deadman way too often. 4 times a year. It was just burnout. Sorry, go on, Husky.
I was just going to say, it comes down to, I think, a few design things as well. I think, like, as you touched on there, we looked at what Twisted League did. We said what did well, what didn't go well, and then we turned it up to, like, 11, 12, 13, whatever. We just didn't stop turning it up and making it awesome. Deadman never got that chance. And I think that the thing that maybe helps, like, there's probably some design elements of leagues that could work in Deadman. There's probably a lot of design elements in leagues that don't, right? And it'd be interesting to compare them and see, what did we do really well about this seasonal game mode that didn't, you know, that we could apply to the other one? I think one of the things that stands out to me is Leagues is... Well, RuneScape as a game is about setting goals and achieving them, right? And Leagues just presents this nice little box of goals that you don't have to think of yourself, and there's always something more to move on to, right? You complete all your easy tasks, you move on to your medium tasks. I don't know if that's something that can be applied to Deadman. Obviously, that's a very skilling PVM kind of way for the game mode, but I think that probably helps a lot, right? Because after 2 weeks in Deadman, it's just about making your account stronger, if you know what I mean, in PvP combat, but then you maybe get set back and you've lost progress, right? So I think there's a few interesting like things to think about, you know, when it comes to what could be applied to Deadman in the future, right? I think that is why Leagues is, at least the Trailblazer League did as well as it did, you know?
Okay, thanks for that. Ash, you touched previously on the mention in the Gazette about the interfaces and such for clans. We have a question here just in general. How is clans development coming along for you?
Gotta say, it's not how we planned 2020. We did hoped to be able to, well, blitz on clans throughout the whole of the summer this year. That is not how 2020's been. I don't think anyone had the 2020 they were expecting, to be honest. Well, you've seen that progress, so that's concrete. We've also got a fair bit more infrastructure that we haven't seen, which doesn't really look like anything yet, because it all works well. You call this cheat command and this a variable set, call this other cheat command, and it tells you it has been set. That's great under the hood, but you can't make a picture of it that's worth looking at, really. But we've been working on things for you. If there's 2 people in a clan, let the leader abdicate in favour of the next most senior, so that if a clan leader is quitting or wants to hand over, they've got some way of doing so without needing the support team to have to do it manually for them. Also, looking for a mechanism whereby a leader who goes completely inactive for like over a month, maybe let them be demoted automatically in favour of the next most senior admin, so that your leader gets, well, quits RuneScape, gets banned, has a life event that means they no longer play. You're not stuck without a leader for the rest of eternity. We've got some progress on that. Also, the thing with clans is we need this to be expandable. So I don't just need to make an interface that shows some information now. I need to make an interface which other developers can very conveniently plug more slots into in the future, preferably without having to do anything complicated. Because a developer who's got to tie into other people's code and finds it complicated will tend to go on stream and say it's not very good code. Yeah, Kieran knows what I mean. So I'm trying to design this stuff not just to work for us now, but to work for future old school. That makes it slower, especially so I also like it to look nice. We've got quite a lot of personnel has gone into this, but there's not a whole lot to show at the moment. I regret that because I rather like showing pictures of what I've been working on. It's fun. Anyway, I do think we're going to be good for, well, launch next year, anywho.
Awesome, thank you. I personally can't wait till you start sharing more of those furs as well, Ash. I always find it fascinating the way you pull them together. I think, is it paint that you just use exclusively to make them, mostly?
Yes. Yeah, I don't really go for complicated things if I can avoid it, apart from being a programmer.
I mean, it works, so, keep it up.
I've seen pictures in a similar style. It's like it started something back in the day.
I do like it. It just has that little old school feel to it as well, which is just, another nice little touch. So, I think they're very charming. So, I'm a big fan. We've had Naya Nero from Reddit ask, why were the Elder Chaos Robes left out of the boosted drops? It feels weird to have a fairly popular unique item not be among the boosted drops. And I assume this is League specific for the question.
Yeah. Ultimately, it's kind of trying to, how to put this well, Leagues is a huge project, right? It touches the entirety of the game, and when we sat down and looked at tasks, we were like, let's come up with tasks for as much stuff as we can, for as much content. And we still kind of had to have a limit, right? Because we could have come up with 2,000 tasks and said, okay, you're not getting Leagues till 2021, right? So we have, to be reasonable. It was just missed off the tasks, right? Elder Chaos Druid Robes probably should have been a task. And what does that have to do with the drop rate modifier? Well, when I came to the drop rate modifier months after making the tasks, I looked at all the tasks and said anything that is a task apart from a jar or a pet should probably be a boosted rate. And I think the only one I missed off that list was the Brine Saber from Brine Wraps, and potentially, if you want to go that far, the Granite Shield in Relica. Those are fairly easy things to get anyway, so I'm not concerned, and it doesn't list them on the interface either. And I think the only one that was missed off the interface that was included was the Dragon Defenders, which were less actually because I needed it for a task and more because it was plugged into Deadman already and it made it easier to make it also apply to Leagues as well. I could have taken it out, but, lean on being generous, I suppose, right? As opposed to being stingy with that sort of stuff. So that's long and short, right? If we made a task for it, it probably would have been affected. And the fact we didn't make a task, was potentially an oversight. I don't think it's hurt the wilderness all that much. It just, some people want to go for those cool robes and probably just I wish it was quicker,
Yeah, it's understandable. I do have to say I disagree with the Brine Saber. I went over 2,500 kills to get that thing. It was painful, but it is what it is. As you said yourself on Twitter, it is okay to go dry.
Don't start this. I don't want to have to rant about going dry on drops, and you're just making me angry. Just even mentioning it, I'm thinking about how I went 150 Cyclops before my Bronze Defender with 3x drop rate applying to the Dragon one only. I think, right?
Yeah. After the whole situation with Godsword Shards, which yes, there was a bug where Godsword Shards just didn't drop Leagues or main game because there was a missing bit of script that was supposed to be wrapped around my calling piece of script. I literally went through every single one, put in some debug as well. I took a couple of hours to do this just to verify there wasn't anything else that I plugged this code into that wasn't working as it should. Because as soon as I say one thing is broken, people are going to be like, I'm 8 times dry, which sucks, by the way. It really sucks, but it's still statistically possible. I just had to say, hey, I've done it. I've looked through them all. I put a tweet out about it because, people are going to probably err on, I can't possibly be this unlucky. Why would I actually be this unlucky? It was probably that guy, Husky, that messed up his code again. Right? So, it's more easy for them to blame something like that than just the statistical improbability.
If you roast people for complaining about going dry over an impossible drop, they gotta roast you back. I think that's fair.
That entire tweet was roasting people and expecting to be roasted back, right? That was fine. But I thought I still owed it to say, I actually looked, guys. I did you that,
Anyway, sorry for the tangent.
That's okay. So the next question comes in from Wildy Updates Please from Twitter. Conveniently, it's a question about wilderness. PvP. What are your current plans to revive multi-PvP, i.e. overall plans and Slayer Cave that was supposed to be the Rev Cave replacement for multi-clans? After changing Revs to singles, multi-clans just kind of disappeared from the game.
So to talk to Rev Caves and the Slayer Cave first of all. So we're still continuing to kind of monitor it and look at activity levels and look at what small changes we can do incrementally to try and make it better gameplay there. But we have to avoid what was happening beforehand, what caused the change. So we've done things like reduce the spawn time in the Rev Caves, and yesterday we made it's a really small change. We made a change to allow the Amulet of Avarice to work in the Slayer Cave. So again, that's a very slight buff to the Slayer Cave. A bit more long term, we've discussed trying to make the Slayer Dungeon, Slayer Cave a bit more enticing, add new NPCs, which are, maybe we add, and I'd like to hear some feedback on it, maybe we add NPCs that are great for things like burst and barrage tasks, like Anku and Nex and Abyssal Demons, etc. And then we remap the area to make it a bit better for clumping them all together. And then that, plus, the effect of the loot with the Amulet of Avarice, will then make it a pretty enticing place to go and do the barrage tasks. And then that creates like a bit of a multi-system. We've discussed maybe, if we give the Thammaron sceptre a new unique spell, perhaps that then becomes the best weapon to go and use in there as well. And then by perhaps buffing the Slayer Cave, you create demand for the weapons and the ether within the Revenant Caves, which is single plus. And then, in theory, you go to the Slayer Cave to get the ether, you use all the ether and the weapons in the Slayer Cave, and then that creates demand in the Rev Caves, which then increases the price, and then maybe there's a nice little cycle, a little flow, where there's activity in both places.
Interesting. Hopefully that answers that one then. I think that kind of way to go about it is probably the best, though, is like obviously the constant monitoring and such, these small changes, and then looking at the bigger picture overall once the baseline is kind of in a good place too, right? So we've had this is going to be a difficult one for me, so please chat, don't roast me too hard. I don't know why, but it's like one word that I always struggle with. Sergeant Squirrel, there we go, I think I did okay, from Reddit has asked if the Thammaron sceptre can finally be given its own unique spell. The idea was apparently mentioned to the team before.
So I just mentioned that we're considering it. I think it's just about us establishing what that spell is. I don't think we've actually offered one previously to the community. We did offer things like allowing it to auto-cast Ancients, which was shot down and we pulled it. So then it came back to, can we offer a unique spell? And I don't think anybody has a unique effect to offer. So I'd welcome players inputting on it. I'm not opposed to it. Naturally, you're going to get concerns from players like, well, it's been, how long has it been? 2 to 3 years since release, so maybe somebody's got loads and loads of them, and this is just a merch question. But actually, the sceptre is pretty low in price. No one really uses it, as far as I know. So it probably could do with a buff. It's not just about merching.
One of the things that would be interesting to me is we've talked about a potential, like, do we look at reworking some of the wilderness bosses, so they have actual mechanics, not just one-shot stuff, and not just like a load of defense that makes for an offense that means you have to safe spot them, right? And if we did do that, I would love to see like one of the Revenant weapons good against each boss, right? Say, for example, what's it called? Flail? Is it a flail? I think it's a flail. Good against the chain mace. That's it. I was like, it's a one-handed thing. It's like flails are two-handed. I was like, what's the word? Yeah, the chain mace good against Vetion. The bow, for example, good against Vannaka. You maybe have the staff good against Callisto. I think just giving its own unique spell, though, right now doesn't do that. And if you did make it, for example, right now best against Callisto, it would be like through really hacky methods. So I think Callisto has really, really, really high mage defense, right? Or mage level or something like that, right? So
the modifier
I think
0.
So, we could do something like that potentially. I think that would be a cool use for it. But as you said, there could be other ways, right? If we make it so that there's this Slayer Cave that it ends up being really good at to help with like all this barrage. Maybe that's a route to go down instead. Maybe it could be both. I don't know. I think that we need a clear design for it, but I think like the team's definitely on board with saying we could definitely make a change to that weapon, because right now it feels pretty terrible to get a really, 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 really rare drop and for it to be worth so little money, you know?
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Another Leagues theme question here. And they're asking, what are our thoughts on a prestige or rooted of League similar to this one, meaning once you've chosen one path, you could reset, retaining some items and features.
I'd have to think about what that did, right? So I assume you reset and you do your tasks again, but then is that like a meta to like just reset and farm more tasks? Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like to get higher points, like because I think right now people have noticed you get to like a point where once you start going into bossing, there's like a huge boom in the points per hour, right? As you start getting able to knock off these elite tasks, and then it starts to slow down once you've got it all. Maybe then like people would just prestige do that. But I think the intent of the question is, like perhaps like the fun of resetting over, maybe changing relics and stuff and doing it again, which I definitely see that too. I think this league has a ton of replayability. I think the choose your class for Relic 3 plays really well with the area selections. You know, the idea that you pick the best areas to pick for your style and then also pick which content you want to use that style against. I think it's really fun. I'm just not sure how that would work. And if there is any reset of progress, you run into the whole, like, what if someone reset your account and maliciously and you didn't want it to happen? And while that comes down to like account security stuff as well, it's also like, we don't currently have like a snapshot of like that. Like we would have to start having like a backup system in place where we potentially could restore that if it were something, which that's going down a whole barrel, right? Of like things that need to be fixed before it ever became a thing, right?
I think there's merit in the idea, personally.
I think there is, and I think there's a whole design that needs to come for it, right? You know.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know what the details are. That's the hard part. Like, how does it actually fit? How does it work? How does it not undermine what Leagues is right now? And I think the idea, I've seen the same sort of thing of a phone. I want a permanent Leagues because I love playing it that much. I'm like, I get why. It's working out how does that fit into the Leagues ecosystem? And how does that not take away from what Leagues is now? I think people, there's an anticipation about Leagues. You don't want to burn out. You don't want relics to start feeling just like normal as well. So, yeah, it's difficult. I don't know. Did you have thoughts, Aiza?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it sounds like something that does have potential for maybe like a feature within a future league if it was planned out properly and there was, good merit for it being that way. Like, that's the beauty of Leagues, right? Is that pretty much anything that you can think of in one way or another can be made to work with it and be fun in a way, but not something for this league. It doesn't seem so. And whilst I'm on that point of Leagues, because there's been a few questions that have came up, rightly so, obviously we're still in the thick of it and there's a lot of things coming in feedback-wise. But we are planning on releasing a blog some point next week that looks to cover a lot of the kind of hot topic conversations that are raised at the moment, and some of those being, for example, the ability to reset your relics or the permanent league in the future and those kind of stuff as well. So there is a thread out there on Reddit and also on Twitter that if you are interested in providing anything for that, I don't have the links available at the moment, unfortunately. I didn't think of a command. I'm a bad host. But yeah, we are working on that at the moment, and yeah, keep an eye on when that comes out. It should hopefully answer a lot of those kind of like bigger questions that you've all been asking.
I'd like to touch on that this stream, though, if that's okay.
Sure.
If I could steal a moment of the stream. So, in the interest of being completely transparent with the community, right? There's a lot of hot topics on this sort of stuff, right? There's small stuff like, can I get a box trap in the wilderness or something, right? Which is like, okay, maybe you should have planned better around that or whatever, right? Please try and take this how I mean to say it, chat, because I'm very bad for wording things exactly how I mean, but I'm going to give it a shot. So, players have pointed out we've been a bit inconsistent with things, right? We've had statements come out and say you shouldn't change anything post-league, but then the double cast bug came up with 100% accuracy, and that wasn't part of the description, so we fixed it. And then there was the bug found with double cast having 2-tick barrage, and then we didn't leave that one in, but we fixed that one. And then it kind of like, now we're pitching like clue changes. And I think the truth about this whole thing is that like, we don't really know what the right answer is, right? Because we previously said you shouldn't make changes. But if we just encountered a straight up bug, right? Like, this is broken, this is not as intended, should we fix it, right? And I think if it had been any other relic but double cast, if like Fluid Strikes, for example, had like a 1-tick whip, and it was also the strongest style at 2-tick, you guys would be saying fix it, it's a bug, it's a huge bug, right? Because double cast was the weakest one, it was like, let's actually edge on doing that. But in doing so, we also upset people who didn't pick Desert, and would have picked Desert if they'd known that was a feature. So now you've opened this whole rabbit hole of like, we don't actually know what the correct thing to do is with this, right? Do you know what I mean, right? Because you could go the element of saying, whatever's out there never changes. And that's completely true to the competitive nature of leagues, which, if bugs happen, you leave them. Or you could say, hey, whatever's on the interfaces is law, right? In which case we would fix the bugs, but then people might quit because, you know, their friend told them there was a bug and they unlocked it and now they can't go back and they'll be screaming for us to unlock choose the relics. Or you can go and say, look, fun comes first, in which case you make these changes as you see fit. But you're going to have people upset because they're going to say, like, I would have picked another relic regardless. And this is, internally, I've seen people who say, make the change, and then on a different topic say, don't make the change. And vice versa, right? And I think that it's really difficult to know, is there a line? What should leagues be? And I think I'd like for us, for the next league, to have come up with a clear stance that we can at least come to you guys, even if that stance is to say, we might make changes as we see fit, and we're just going to have to deal with that. But we'll try and be really conservative about it. And a good example of that, like, as well, is Treasure Seeker, because that's the current topic of the debate, right, with the Tier 4 relics. Treasure Seeker, to me, every relic sells a dream. And Tier 3 is a good picture of that, because you pick the mage one, and you're like, I'm going to be a mage for the rest of the league, and you are a mage for the rest of the league. You are really strong at that, right? And, you know, same with range and melee. Treasure Seeker sells a dream of being able to complete clues where you couldn't otherwise complete them, and it sucks at that. It really, really sucks at that. So people who pick Treasure Seeker are like, I wish I could go back. And we're like, okay, what if we buff Treasure Seeker, but it's still worse than Unnatural Selection? But then you've got people who pick Unnatural Selection because they realize Treasure Seeker was bad, but would have loved the clue style, play style. And that's the feedback we've seen so far. I'm not going to go on for the rest of the half an hour on this topic on the stream, right, or whatever. But this is the problem that we have internally, is where do you draw the line? Because this whole situation is complex. Right? And regarding the whole double casting where it was 2-tick, I know people were upset we changed that. I don't mind saying this. We later discovered, when we figured out how the bug was done, that there was a theoretical 1-tick barrage with 100% accuracy if players had figured out how to do it. And I think I saw a comment on Reddit implying that they would have, right? Because of the bug in the way everything was calculating for it, right? That's ridiculous. And if that had been the case, that would have been the most Magic without a weakness with the most overpowered single target DPS if you had the APM to pull it off, because it wasn't auto-castable. So, like, things like this are like, that sounds like a clear bug we should fix. But maybe 2-tick was okay, and maybe... I think you get the point, right? This is what I'm trying to make. Stuff like this is complicated. And I think that we don't have a stance to say, we don't make changes, we sometimes make changes, it's really hard to draw that line. And this is what we've had meetings about, like, internally for the last 2 weeks, trying to figure out, you know?
We don't want people to feel regret over their choices after we make a change. But also, we don't want to leave something as incredibly unfun or frustrating. So, it's, fine line.
It is, and hopefully Monday's blog will, as I say, be able to go into some detail regarding that, and you can completely take the show in that instance, Husky. You can reel out words to your heart's content. I think it was really important, though, covering what you did. I think it's also fair with what you said. And there is a question a little bit later on that is asking in regards to when the update for the clue scrolls on leagues is happening. So I'm just going to quickly cover that now so we can get out of the way and go on to some other questions. At the moment, we haven't made a final decision. The feedback was way too kind of like... I can't think of the right word. There wasn't a general kind of like opinion that we could find from it. People were very much against it if they picked Treasure Seeker. People that had Unnatural Selection obviously want it. There are some Treasure Seeker people that do want it as well. So we're going to use this time to essentially look at what we've put out, see if there's anything that we can do in terms of changing that proposal. We'll get back to you with the blogs for feedback and such. And this is exactly why we do what we did. Is like, we're aware there's an issue. This is how we think we can solve it. How do you feel about it? And if you don't like it, cool, we won't do it. And it seems like a lot of you don't like that proposal, but maybe there is a different proposal that actually works, whether it's buffs, nerfs to others. We'll get there. It's just going to take us some time. So we're going to continue working on that, go back to the drawing board, and we'll be back to you with feedback soon. Now, moving on to some other questions. Now we've got that over. Sorry about that. Lethality is Balanced has asked, hi guys, any plans to graphically update places like Al-Kharid or anywhere, but still keep the same old school RuneScape graphical style that we know and love?
So I think there are kind of two elements to this question. Firstly, the idea of updating areas and keeping a graphical style. I think that's a bit hypocritical. How can you graphically update an area and maintain the old school style? We've done things like update chat heads and update the looks of characters before, and they've been very, very negatively received. So I think the best way to do is what we've been doing lately, which is existing areas of the game. If we add new stuff to it, we keep it within that style. But if we add new areas, say Prif, for example, then that's when we can make it perhaps look a bit more modern, a bit more fitting. The next element to the question, and I imagine a lot of people will be saying, okay, you talked about graphical updates, can you talk about HD now? And I know I see a lot of spam about HD all the time. And, we spoke about it recently in the last leadership live stream, and then me, Kieran, and Mike on Asmon Gold stream as well. So just to kind of summarize what we said, we know there's a big appetite for HD. Equally, we know there's a lot of opposition to HD. I don't think as a team we're necessarily opposed to it if we can do it in the right way and at the right time. I see a lot of people say old school won't grow until there's HD, but we're setting new records every single year. So clearly, I don't want to reduce the kind of your argument, but gameplay triumphs over graphics, and arguably the graphics themselves are iconic. We're not opposed to it. We'll continue investigating it. In the last annual survey, we asked you for your preference on art styles. We offered like how the game used to look in 09, 010, that kind of thing. Also, I think we gave you a choice at looking at other MMOs with quite unique styles like Albion and WoW and whatnot, what kind of graphical you prefer, Path of Exile 2. So we asked you to give us feedback on what the game should look like. I don't ever imagine a future where we've got a billion different toggles for loads of different graphical styles, because the game needs to look, if you've got marketing materials which show off the gameplay, it needs to look consistent. Someone needs to play the game, see the what you're showing on a YouTube ad or something, and it needs to look like the game you're playing. But I imagine if we do it, it would be toggled. I can't imagine there being lots of different toggles. Maybe there's one toggle. There's no plans for it. I'm just saying kind of how we view it internally.
Further to that, if I may, I remember, if you go back far enough, we did the graphical improvement update of Falador. That was when it first became, the city of all white walls. Personally, I think the artist had seen Minas Tirith in a movie around that time, but hey, Falador looks lovely. I've always thought so, and they redesigned Falador. Big change, but these days people see it and they think, yeah, that's old school graphics, that is. Varrock was done with a hilarious news post entitled "Can you smell what Varrock is cooking?" And I can't take credit for that. And players were not quite so fond of that one, possibly because Falador actually looks nice, whereas in Varrock, someone had gone to a lot of trouble to draw a slum, and it looks like a slum. Might just be that. Certainly, when Old School came out, people were saying, can we have an option where Varrock looks like it did before the improvements update? No, sorry, no, we can't do that. And we didn't have an archived version of it either to just paste over the live one. Taking an area of the game and redesigning it within the current game engine, just to use old school graphics but be different, it's a double-edged sword. Like, it worked beautifully for Falador. I've never been convinced that players appreciated it that much for Varrock. And if we took our career as suggested, well, we might be keeping the old school style, but make it look better than it does. Or we might make it look, well, not like what you remember anymore. It's still got to feel like home to players when they look at old school. I feel that's very important, even if it looks a bit clunky. That's your RuneScape, and one can legitimately get attached to that. I do not think we'd go as far as redesigning an existing town. Not just as a area redesign like that. Unless it's Zalandra. I make an exception there, because Zalandra, the place where you fight Zora, that was mapped mostly by me, because the artist was busy making a big snake. And while he was, frankly, he had many, many evenings in the office working all kinds of hours polishing that snake. So I ended up doing the environment work. And quite a lot of the wall kits are nabbed from Berg the Rot. I added a big hillock on the west side of it to make it at least not look like more flat grey swamp. I wasn't very good at environment mapping. I'm still not. We employ people for that these days, and they're really good at it. I was never one of them. I also wasn't trained for it, so I don't feel too bad about that. But I would be willing to redesign that.
I've missed you on these Q&As, Ash.
Sorry.
Although it does just really point out how childish my sense of humour is.
I'm older than you, and I've got the end. Well, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I just want to ask this one because the question personally interests me. So sorry, guys, I'm in control. Speedies1 has asked, why has Vannaka never received a quest? He's introduced to us so early in the game, as well as being the only character to wield a 2H and a shield. What a beast. And yet has never, to my knowledge, had anything done with him. We want a Vannaka quest. Lol.
Well,
why does it say lol at the end?
It would sound fun. Taking a character that people have known for a long time and writing a story for them can be a lot of fun. I did it with the Wise Old Man, and I have never regretted it. Just be careful what you wish for, though, because people talked for a long time about how, oh my god, Bob's an interesting character. There must be so much mystery to him. In this bit of line, he quotes Star Wars. Yay. Well, you can take a Bob quest in two directions. Tale of Two Cats, lovely. Dragon Slayer 2, Be careful what you wish for your good friend Vannaka.
I would say though, like quest to restore Vannaka to his rightful place as the best Slayer Master. Like, who's this Duradel guy? Like you want to find your way, fight your way to the top, get to max combat, and then meet the guy who first taught you how to wield that bronze sword, and he's like looking at you like you're now ready.
Wait, is it canon that Vannaka is the combat instructor on Trailblazer Island? Because it's just called combat instructor, right? The NPC.
I think it's intended to look like him. I mean,
it certainly looks the same guy, yeah.
I don't remember the start of 2005 too well, to be perfectly honest. But Mod Bennett writing the Slayer skill, I'm pretty sure he was, using that on purpose. As for why he's got a two-handed sword equipped, that would explain why he can teach you how to wield a little butter knife, as he calls it. Because he knows how to hold things in his hands. Presumably, Vannaka just has bigger hands than the rest of us. And maybe big arm muscles as well, to be able to hold the weight of the sword. That could be fun to explore in the dialogue in the course of this quest as well. But I also would urge you to bear in mind that if we do write a quest featuring Vannaka, he might go the way of Neve.
It's like one day, isn't it?
Could we get
slowly replace it all?
And then dual two-handed swords?
God bless God Ash.
I'm a little bit conscious of time. We haven't managed to get to any chat questions. I am almost at the end of the list of standard questions, though, so maybe we can just do like a real quick fire round for the last 5 minutes or so. So BG the Green has asked, is it too late to start leagues now?
No. It's only been, how long has it been out? 2 weeks? Just over 2 weeks? And in 2 weeks you can get it's out for another 2 months basically. Start of January, so you got nearly 2 months. You can easily get 10,000, 20,000 points in that time frame. So
absolutely, I think it only takes you like a couple of days, to be able to be at a point where you're actually able to do some cool content PVM wise as well. The XP rates are so accelerated that you can literally just, especially if you unlock Skilling Prodigy, you could basically be at the point that some people are now within a few days.
I think that's one of the cool things I really like about leagues. Not anything bad on Deadman, it's fantastic. But Deadman, you start 2 weeks late. Maybe it is too late because you've got your 6-hour immunity, but then people can kill you who are way higher combat level. That isn't a thing in leagues. Aside from the bugs we may or may not fix, you basically have exactly the same playing experience minus a few of the bottlenecks early game as everyone else, right? If, theoretically, you put 10 hours in on the first day, you'll get just as far as if you do 10 hours in the last day, give or take the bottleneck situations, right? And the metas which might be figured out. It's a pretty cool thing about leagues, I think,
Okay, so 191018 has asked if it's possible to get a buff to lower end enchanted bolts. Give them a use.
What
there's
is the
dragon versions of them?
Yeah, I mean, it's the cliche answer, but not everything can be the most useful at any one time.
That's true. I always liked what people said. Oh, sorry, Ash, go on.
I was going to say, there is still more we could do with the ones that have elemental kind of effects. Like, take the one that's more effective on fiery creatures. A lot of players assume it's going to help on Tsar. It don't. And it's a bit inconsistent where it does help. Same for the one that's water-based. The one that's meant to be good against watery creatures. We could maybe do more with that sort of thing so that it does become particularly useful, just not everywhere at once. And also the code that's deciding what's a fiery creature could be... the developer did what they could at the time with the engine they had. We can do more with that kind of thing now.
I love the sound of it, but I wonder if it'll open a can of elemental worms. Kieran, do you remember this April Fool's? We did the Pokemon blog. Yeah, we said we were going to implement the elemental system across everything. Then it would be why don't my fire arrows work well against ice giants?
I just can't get over how you just said elemental worms.
It's so casual as well. Like,
is that a euphemism? Okay.
To be honest, I would love some more stuff like that. That makes sense. I think we've got to be careful because exactly as you say, there is a kind of elemental worms ready to be opened if you did go too far. But something like the elemental spells working on the right things and doing extra damage and things, I think it's cool.
Cool.
Maybe I'll thought of that. I don't know if you guys all thought of the Earthworm. I thought of the Draconic Worm, like the worms in the Cruel Slayer dungeon. So you could legitimately have elemental draconic-like creatures that,
Or what's underneath Elemental Workshop 2? Worms. Maybe not.
Potentially.
RuneScape has ice worms. We could probably steal some of those.
We have a worm infestation. It's causing serious issues. So let's move on. Duserpers has asked, are there going to be some announcements for upcoming updates next year since that RuneFest is cancelled? Sad face in the chat.
We'll announce them in some way. We're still yet to work out how we do it. Obviously, what's great about RuneFest is the reveals, the big keynote at the end of it. That's what everyone tunes in for. That's what everyone's excited to hear about, what cool stuff we're doing. First of all, we need to properly decide what we're doing next year. And we're largely there. We need to, but there's still a bit more polishing to do before we can have reasonable confidence in what we announce to you. I guess that's then when we can have any kind of cool announcements.
Also, at least 3 of the things we want to do next year are things we announced in the last RuneFest.
Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah. I think that's the thing to me, right? We got to honor the commitments we've already made before making more commitments, right? There's people who are excited about clans and Group Iron Man, the things that were left out, and we'd still like to deliver those,
Okay, Selling Cure has asked, has the different regions being less popular made you think about maybe updating those zones in the future?
I think it's definitely shown a lot about the game and where a lot of the content lies. Like And it's crazy how much a single piece of content can change a region. Mauritania would be pretty underwhelming if it didn't suddenly have Theatre of Blood and maybe even Nightmare recently. I think Nightmare a lot less so because I don't think a lot of people are doing that in leagues. But, you know, I think the common one I've seen players say is, hey, if Rage 3 was out, Desert would be pretty good. And yeah, I'm sure it would be very good. And we could have very easily had a lot of master tasks there, you know, that would have taken it up to where it is. But I think it definitely does, because like we had to break that down, right? We had to say like what was in each area. And I have a huge list in a spreadsheet of all the content that we could use when we're thinking of tasks, and you know, it's definitely eye-opening, you know. And I think it's like, you know, Kandra and Asgarnia cover so much of the mainland, you know, that like there's a lot of fringes that could just have more content, you know.
There's also the matter of where you want to spend your time in the game once the content's out. Like the desert has. Well, we know there's cool stuff to unlock there, but it's not a place where you necessarily want to spend a whole lot of time beyond it when there isn't a thing like a league going on. And we would also consider prioritising finishing off the terrain, like the southeast corner of the desert just ain't there. Menaphos, we've been teasing the possibilities of where that story's going since before Old School, and we as a team haven't tried to even touch it so far. We've addressed vampires and their story copiously in the last year. We've addressed the elf story last year. I think in terms of area expansions, the desert is calling for one. You've seen the cutscenes of the High Priest of Sophanum trying to get into Menaphos and being shot at. Where's that going? What's in this city? Is it a raiding dungeon? All the possibilities. We would decide based on that kind of thing, as well as what's good to unlock as a one-off visit, so as to maybe get people going there and staying there more.
Okay, thank you. And obviously it's just gone past 6, so I think if we just leave this as the last question, Curse Atiesh has said, speaking of burnout, do you think this league will increase the burnout rate for players when they go back to playing the normal game?
I'm not ready to not have last recall. Like, let's just be honest here.
Infinite run, yeah.
Infinite run, all of that stuff, yeah. I mean, it'll certainly be interesting to see how the experience is going back to normal. But at the same time, the progression is so much more meaningful. It stays forever, right? Like, that stuff is your permanent account. You're going to get the rewards from leagues. You're going to get those nice cosmetics. Like, yeah, to some degree, there might be some. It's going to be a transition, but not too worried about it.
I did the playtest the other day for one of the quests that's coming out, and when I was there, I was hitting an NPC, and it just felt so wrong that my whip was so slow. But one thing that I've certainly noticed is that I'm now at the point where I'm playing my account and I'm sitting there training agility for like 4 or 5 hours, and I'm just like, I really should be doing this on my Iron Man. Why am I doing it on this game mode? But I'm like, well, because it's hella fun, so of course I'm gonna. But I think, yeah, for me, it's like I'm missing that progress now, where I'm spending the hours that I want to make on my other account. I really should be dual logging, but I'm terrible at it. Yeah, I just think it's an interesting one. We're gonna have to just look at, really see how players feel.
Everyone's different on this. I know at the end of Twisted League, I was getting a little bit fed up of Twisted League towards the end. I know I was pushing for that last 2 weeks to try and get into Dragon. But like, towards that last month, generally, I was like, to me, I've got so fed up of my own goals in the game. You know, I've got a lot of difficult items to obtain in the end of the Iron Man bucket list, right? That are just, you can spend weeks and not make any progress towards that. And Leagues has been so fun. But then taking a break from that just makes me excited to go back. I know some people take breaks and play other games. You know, they'll say, oh, I'm going to play another game for a month maybe, and I'm going to come back to RuneScape, right? For me, like, this is like playing another game. And I'm going to come back to the same game. And it's going to be fun to do all the things that I was working on beforehand. That's me personally. But I totally feel you on the attack speed thing. I picked the 1 tick faster attacks in the last league. And the amount of times I'd go and attack something and step back and realize, oh, you know, I'm not ready to attack yet or something. It's just so wrong. But hey, I got that. I get used to that after like a week or so, you know.
Perfect. All right. I think, Sween, if there's some things you want to add to the end of the stream before I wrap things up.
But there was a question which was about, can we get some league stats? And I figured you'd probably want to save most of them for the blog next week. Yeah. But we've got a pretty cool leagues dashboard, and I wanted to share some fun stuff that maybe wouldn't have been included in that blog. Like look at task completions and the number of completions. So the most completed task is opening the leagues menu. Good job, everybody. 225,000 of you opened the leagues menu. Woo. Awesome stuff. Pat on the back. What else? 90,000 of you, just over, have cooked 100 lobsters. Nice. 24,000 have defeated a blue dragon in Asgardia. Epic. Heroes. I'll do a couple more. 2,000 of you have pet Frank, the Bloodveld. Cute. And lastly, let's go for a task that only one of you have completed. There's a few of them. Okay, only one person has equipped a completed god book.
Ooh, someone's a master clue juggler, clearly. Yeah, they got all pages in one clue, probably. It was like, oh my god, this is insane.
Yeah, I got so lucky last night. So, pulled a few
the scary thing is, there's a master in Fremi for all of them, and that was definitely not after knowing what the state of clues would be like in launch. So good luck completing all 6 books.
Are you going to give them a prize if they do, Husky?
I don't know. But I had an interesting thought. Was like, I saw a lot of people complaining about the Inferno time, for example, 75 minutes being too lenient, and it probably is for mage and range, but I wanted it to be fairly for melee, because I didn't want to punish you by picking a style you thought was fun. I've thought about the idea of Grandmaster tasks for next league that are still like 500 points, but like I put them out there saying, these could be impossible, have fun. And I think even Kieran we were on a Discord call last night, and he was like, what about a legendary task? Like, or something like that is like 20,000 points, but like get 99 Slayer without training any combat stats, or something like that. And someone will build their entire account around doing it just to see if it's possible, right?
I think it'd be pretty fun.
We've just thought of these fun ideas. And these might be stupid ideas, right? But like, I think they might be really good ideas. I don't know. I think the thing is that like, I'd love just coming up with ideas and saying, this might be good if we just do something else with this instead, you know? I don't know. I think it's interesting to see what we could do with tasks in the next league.
Yeah, I think adding those little extra challenges is always fun, especially if people are going to, build their, account based around that as well. But it is nearly 6:10, and I know people want to go and eat food, and Spear is probably hating me because it's my first Q&A in a while and I'm already late. So I'll wrap things up with just a pointing out the announcements. I got Spear in my ear now. Maybe he's not hating me. ! Leagues in the chat. Leagues is live. Obviously we've spoke about it quite a lot during this Q&A. It is not too late to start with the accelerated XP rates and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, ! Leagues to learn more and get stuck in. ! GGA. The Golden Gnome Awards will take place on November the 20th at 7 p.m. GMT. How exciting. Looking forward to that. ! CA. So in September's Gielinor Gazette, we did touch on the polling and blogging of combat achievements. The design of that is progressing well. We're going to have more information to share with you very soon. Hopefully, well, not hopefully, but that will be blogged before the end of this year with a poll in there as well. So that's great. But we want to know, when you first heard of combat achievements, what were the hardest tasks you were thinking of at the time? So please, if you could have replied to the tweet or the Reddit thread that's listed in that command, that would be fantastic. And on that note, I think that is everything. Chat, you have been absolutely wonderful. Thank you. We all love you dearly. And obviously, to all the mods that join me, thank you so much for helping and answering all of the questions. And Spear, thanks for doing your thing. And also thanks to, Sani, who has been doing the chat. Thanks, Mod Sani. Okay.